all the options to establish relationships between the tables. The data relation class will provide you all the options to establish the relationship. So this is the form what we designed. We have two grid view controls, one on the top and one on the bottom. First, we place the split container, and for the split container, we use the orientation property. We use the orientation property, and the orientation property is set as what? The orientation property, we just set it as horizontal. Default is vertical, and now we change it as horizontal actually. Hold on a second. Yeah, all about data relation. Okay. Now we learned about working with the data grid view control. We learned about working with the data grid view control, how to just use the data grid view control. I explained you in detail. But to understand one thing, a data grid view control is capable of displaying only one table at a time. It can display only one table at a time. Why? You remember changes in the grid view will directly reflects to the data table. I already shown you that. Because the changes in the grid view directly reflects to the data table, there is a one-to-one binding between the data table and data grid view. There is a one-to-one binding between the data table and the data grid view. There is a one-to-one binding. So what is the problem? Not a problem. What I'm just trying to show you is, all of you observe this. I'm going to show you a new application for loading multiple tables into my data set. Okay, multiple tables into my data set. Let me open our application. And I'm again showing you one more example of loading multiple tables into the data set. Okay, let me add a new form. So let me take you to the code view. And I want to load multiple tables into it, same like our yesterday's code. So I'll copy this here. I want the same yesterday's code only. Okay. I don't want a data relation now. I don't want any relation. Then this is all the code you written to load the two tables now. The two tables. And actually today I want three tables here. So I'll say TA3, one more adapter. Select star from which table? Salgrade table. Salgrade table. I don't require this primary keys and all now. Don't want. Then da3.fill Salgrade. Okay, how many tables are loaded now? Three tables. You're loading all the three tables into the grid view now. All three tables are loaded. Okay. Now you cannot bind multiple tables to a grid view control. You cannot bind multiple tables to a grid view control. You can bind only one table. For example, here, suppose I'm just going to go to my data tab and add a grid view. And adding a grid view. And when I come here, just to see data grid view one dot data source is equals to DS. The DS contains three tables in it, right? When I run that, doesn't show me any data. Why? Multi-table binding is not available here. It's only single binding. Why? One-to-one relationship. Why? Because there is a physical binding between the table and the grid view. Changes on the grid view will directly reflect in the data table. So if you take two or three tables there, the column size will vary, the row size, it cannot bind to the tables now. Are you getting my point or not? So that's why grid view supports only one-to-one binding. One-to-one binding is only available for you in the case of the grid view. So compulsory, you need to bind a table only, like a ds dot tables of 0. Table binding is only allowed, not set binding. See now, I got it. But I want to display all the three tables at a time now. I want to display all the three tables. If that is the case, we have a control called as data grid. What is the control? Data grid. Actually, it's a old control here right now. Means initially Microsoft launched data grid in 1.0 in .NET 2.0. In .NET 2.0 grid view came. After grid view came, Microsoft recommends using only grid view over data grid. That's why you go to the toolbox and go to the data tab here. In the data tab, you won't find the data grid control here. You won't find it. You notice it? You won't find it. If you want to get that, what to do? Right click on this. You added controls in the toolbox, remember? Our own controls. Same way, right click. Choose items. Don't add a tab. That's add under the same tab only. Choose items. Watch carefully. Here, framework components only. Okay, not browse or anything. Framework components. Type data grid. Data grid. Can you see that? Two data grids are there. One is web here, one is Windows. Don't add web. What do you add? Windows. Data grid. System.windows.forms is the namespace. You know your namespace now. Choose that. Okay. And click on the OK button. This is the control what you are selecting. Okay, na? That's the control what you are selecting. Okay, select that control basically. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Now you see, you got the data grid control in the list, see? Yes or not? So add it. Add it. Add it. This is the data grid control. Better do the same thing only. What's it? Dogfill. Go for dogfill. Okay, now come to your code. In the place of the data grid view, what is the control? Data grid. And bind data set, not data table. Understood the difference what I'm telling you? Bind what? Data set. Okay, it loads all the three tables. Where is it? How can it show all the three tables at a time? Column sizes are varying now. That's way. If you observe, you can see a plus icon here. Click on that. Which table you want? Click it to show you that table. I want DEPT. On the top, you'll have a back button. Click back. EMP. Salgrid. Am I clearer or not? Yes or not? So like this, you can just show multiple tables. Basically, this control is not feasible for editing. When you want to editing, you can do editing. It's editing. I can do editing. See, editing works, but you're required to write the manual coding for that. But what is the specialty of the Gridio? If I do editing, the changes automatically reflects in the data table. I can directly call save. But here I need to write manual coding for this. I need to go to the Gridio. Some editing events will be there, row editing or something. Is you required right in the leave event of the control then. The leave event, you just required to write your code. Someone's video is on. What's that? Maruti Surendra. Stop the video. Maruti Surendra. Marturi. Sorry. So you just required to write all the manual coding for this. So that's why Microsoft recommends using grid view control than grid. But in any scenario, I have 10 tables want to show, you can use this control. Is that clearer? Okay, use that particular control there. Okay, fine. One more thing you can do. Actually, DPT, EMP table have relationships now. Yes or not? And how to establish a relation, I already explained you in the previous example to you. I can establish relations in another way. What is that? One way of you establish a relation is create a data relation class and add it to the data set, right? Yes or not? create a data relation and add it to the data set. So what is the code you have written? See, all of you. First, you created a data relation object and added to the data set. Alright, this is all setting rules for deletion and all. Ignore that. But this is the code what you have written, right? These two lines. You can write in a single line. How? Watch. Let me copy this. Paste it here. This is one way you written the code. I'm showing a new way. Watch. Directly ds dot relations dot add. It is an overloaded method here. It's an overloaded method. One overloaded method will take what? Data relation object directly. So create it and pass it. That what is going to previous example. Create a data relation, pass it. There is another overload here. Just the overload. You can provide the name, parent column. This is the same thing we given for a data relation class yesterday, na? The same I can pass to the add method. What it will do, it will create a data relation with the specified name and adds to the collection. Means you're doing both in a single shot. Did you understand my point or not? You're doing both in a single shot. Means without creating and adding directly here only, you can provide of the details. Same details. What details? Parent, child, comma. Next, parent column, ds dot, tables of, what is the parent table? DEPT dot, columns of, what is the column? DEPT number. Child column, ds dot, tables of, which table? EMP table, dot, columns of DEPT number. Like this, you can create a data relation like this also. There is another way to create a data relation. Two options are there. I shown you both the two options too. The relationships are added. What is the benefit of adding a relationship? When you are adding a relationship. Oh, sorry guys. We need to do it after calling fill now. Right, tables are not still loaded. Without loading the tables, we cannot add a relationship. First call fill and then add the relationship. The place is wrong. Statement is correct. Only place is wrong. Now you see when you go to DEPT, all of you watch it. Just a minute. Go to EMP table. Showing a EMP table. In the first corner, is it showing anything? Nothing. Just it's showing you like a tab. When you click on that, the row gets selected. That's all. Same way, go to sal grade. Here also, the first column is basically for selection. But guys, go to DEPT. The first column is showing a plus sign there. See, when you click on the plus sign, it will show you the relationship name. When you click on this, it will show you the employees corresponding to 10. Parent child data. Parent on the top. One example you remember when you select the 10, the corresponding employees coming in the grid view I shown you now. This is another style. Different types of requirements here. Their only department name is shown, but here name, ID, location, all are shown and corresponding to that employees will come. Again, go back and again you can see employees of 20, employees of 30. We don't have this capability in which control? Grid view doesn't provide you this option. You can do it only with the data grid control. The data grid control only provides you this option to you. Is that good? Is that looking good now? So like this, we can just do the bindings then. Are you clear? So with this, I just shown you one more example to you on the data relation and loading of multiple tables. Understand here, I shown you multiple examples to loading multiple tables. First example, same database only, no changes to data, just to display. Second example, two different databases. Third and fourth examples again, same database only, 2 tables, 3 tables. I loaded you multiple tables to you in this case. Is that clear? Okay. What is, see, display data in a parent-child view using data grid control. Actually, what I'm showing, display data in a parent-child view using data grid control. it is possible to display the data. It is possible to display the data in parent-child view, with the help of a control known as data grid, which is available before 2.0 version of .NET framework. Or are you clear? Or which is available from the first version, from the initial version of .NET framework. But when you come to GridView is introduced in 2.0. GridView came in 2.0. But Data Grid came in the initial versions of the .NET framework only. Okay, in the brackets I'll mention here. Data Grid View came into existence in .NET Framework 2.0. Is that clear? Data Grid View Control came into existence in which version? The .NET 2.0. Remember that point. Okay? Okay. So Data Grid, which is available from the initial versions of .NET Framework, it doesn't support data manipulations. It doesn't support data manipulations. Means doesn't support in the sense directly it won't do. You need to write all the code manually. Is it clear? Okay, doesn't support data manipulations like I'll say doesn't support the direct data manipulations. Doesn't support the direct data manipulation like which control? Data Grid View Control. Like Data Grid View Control. Okay. So next. Consume. To consume which control? Data grid control. We need to first add that control to our toolbox because it is not available by default. It is not available by default. And do that. And to do that, what do you do? Add a new form, guys. So to consume data grid control, we need to first add the control to our toolbox because it is not available by default. It is not available by default. And to do that, add a new form, guys. Add a new form in the project. Okay, open the toolbox. Just open your toolbox. Open the toolbox. Right click on data tab. You have a data tab now? Right click on data tab and select choose items. Okay. Which opens choose toolbox items window. It'll open you the window, guys. What window? Choose toolbox items window. Okay. Now what? Select the control data grid. Which control? Data grid. Okay, all of you be careful. Of system.windows.forms namespace. Be careful because there are two data grids. That's why I'm just highlighting you. Of system.windows.forms namespace. Okay. And click OK, which adds the control under data tab. Okay, there's a screenshot I given to you. So you can just check it out there. I hope you will not have a confusion now. What do you do? Now place the data grid control on form on our form and write the below code in code view. Yeah, guys, just place it now and write the code. Okay. What are the namespaces so important? Configuration and SQL client. Next, in the declarations, we used dataset connection and 3 data adapters there.
Mobile. Don't watch TV.
Next, which event? Form load event handler. You're just going to write the code in the form load event handler. What is that? This is all the code. Here, just no need of 3 tables here. Just mainly my intention is to explain you about data grid control and how to establish a relationship in a new way. Okay, so just to understand that is also possible. I taken one more adapter here. I'm removing it here for enough because my intention is to parent child. That's all. I said you that only. What I want to display the data in a parent child format. Okay, so just a second. So I will also remove here and remove here. So just my intention is to load only 2 tables, but not 3 or 4 tables. But possible. I showed you can try 10 tables also, no problems. Am I clear? Now, okay, let's talk about this one here. What's it, Actually, what are the major differences you have between we working with the 2 architectures now, data grid, data as well as sorry, one is data reader and one is data set. I showed you examples with the data reader, I showed you examples with data set. Which one looks more futuristic? Come on. Which one looks more futuristic? Data grid or data set? Data set. Data set looks more futuristic. It looks more futuristic when compared with our data grid control. Okay, but still, you need to understand about the major differences between these 2 actually. What to the data set and the data reader controls. The data set and the data reader controls. What is the major difference between both the 2 things? Let's try to understand about them. Yeah, have a look. The major differences between data set and data reader. Data set is disconnected, correct? Come on, respond. data set is disconnected, whereas data reader is connected while reading the data. Correct or not? We already discussed about data set is disconnected, data reader is connection oriented. If connection closed, we are not able to read the data. Okay, while reading data, that's the first thing what you require to notice here. Second, if you want to cache data and pass to different tier, data set will be the best choice. What is that? Basically, guys, we have a concept like a entire architecture. In web we'll learn here, entire architecture, a 3-tier architecture. Or otherwise, do you remember our ATM case study? We will be putting the logic on one machine, and we will be putting the client on one machine, database on one machine. Suppose from the client system, actually application server will be loading some data from the database. All the data from the application server, I need to send it to client. Means you're transporting the data from one machine to another machine. From which machine to which machine? From application server to client. You cannot use data reader. You cannot use data reader. Why you cannot use? Because once I close my connection, data reader will immediately lose the data. But when you come to data set won't lose the data even after the connections are closed also. So data set will store the data. So I can transport the data from one place to another place with the help of data set. I can't use data readers there. See, if we want to cache data and pass to different pass to a different tier means 3-tier architecture. Different tier means from one machine to another machine to a different tier. Data sets will be the best choice. Data sets will be the best choice. If you want to move back while reading records, is it possible with the data reader? No, not possible. Data forward only. Okay. If we want to move back while reading records, data reader does not support this functionality. Data reader doesn't support this functionality. Data readers are not going to support you that functionality. You guys already know that. Okay. Want to move back while reading records. Data reader doesn't support this functionality. Next, data sets will internally store the data in XML format. The data sets will internally store the data in XML format. Actually, once you call the fill method, the data loads into data set now. All the data loaded in the data set will be in XML format. Which format? I'll show you if you want. How simple, guys. Here all the data loaded now. After loading all the data, there is a method called as, in the data set, there is a method called as write XML. You can write it wherever you want. I wanted to write it into our E drive. What's the file, guys? C# 9 and sample.xml. Anywhere you write here, after loading data in any program, you can add this code. Okay, run now. Yeah, just if you run the code, will execute off. Now go to E drive, C# 9. What is the name of the file? Check. Sample.xml just now created. Okay, now right click and you just say open the document with some notepad or something, or a browser. Anywhere here, you can open it with a browser. It have a root node called new data set. Under that, DVPT, department details. There are all the department details. Next, employee details. So many records are there. 20 records register, and then salary details. XML format. It will store you in XML format. XML is a text. XML is text. And that is the reason why data sets can load the data from different data sources. You load from Oracle, converts into XML. You load from SQL Server, converts into XML. You load from Excel, converts into, is all are same format only now. Did you understand my point or not? All are in the same format only now. And that is the reason why data sets will internally store the data in Excel format. That's the reason why we can hold data loaded from multiple data sources, multiple data sources also. Not possible in case of data reader. Not possible in case of data reader. Data reader doesn't support this option. So till now, whatever we learned, all the advantages of the data set, correct? All these are the advantages of the data set, what we noticed. Now see, one of the biggest drawbacks of data set is speed. One of the biggest drawback of data set is speed. The biggest drawback with the data set is speed, guys. Okay, is speed. As a data sets carry considerable overhead, because of the relations, multiple tables, etc. They are not faster. But do you remember the first feature of data reader? The first feature of data reader is data reader provides you very faster access to data because it is connection oriented. Go and read. I already explained that to you. Data reader provides you a very faster access to data because it is connection oriented, but data sets are not faster. One of the biggest drawback of data set is speed. Okay, because data sets carry considerable overhead of information like relations, multiple tables, the relations and all this particular thing that's heavyweight. That is not going to be faster. That's not going to be faster because data sets carry considerable overhead of information like what relationships. We learned the relationships, establishing of the relationships between the tables, and loading of the multiple tables. All these things will make data set less faster compared to data reader. Are you clearer or not? Okay, etc. Whereas data readers are faster in accessing data. Data readers are faster in accessing data, guys. Am I clear? Using data readers, listen, using data readers increases application performance. Alright, till now we are thinking data sets are going to be beautiful, so many features are available. But do you understand? Using data readers increases application performance and reduces system overheads. Buttons will be reduced. This is due to one row at a time is stored in the memory. Actually, it won't load all the data, guys. It will load one by one row. See, forward navigation, one row, it will load only one row. Connection oriented, nah. It will go to database, it load only one row at a time. This is due to one row at a time is stored in the memory. It is not going to store the whole data in the memory. It will be storing only one row at a time in the memory. Because of this reason, data readers are going to provide you excellent performance. So what do they suggest is, use your data readers wherever possible. Are you clear? And final conclusion, what it gives, data readers are well suitable for web applications, guys. Data readers are well suitable for web applications. Data sets are suitable for Windows apps. When you're working with the Windows apps, the best option what they suggest is data sets are well suitable for Windows apps. And here it is web apps. Yeah, guys. Finally, this is all about the differences between data headers and data sets. Correct oriented, disconnected. And you remember I shown you all features of a data set to you. I listed you features of the data set and I demonstrated each and every feature of the data set to you in this process. Watch him. If you come above, where I started disconnected architecture, on that day listed you the various features of the data set to you. First, it can load multiple tables from different data sources. Shown you know? Yes or not? It is disconnected. We just verified that. We verified that in the first example also. Updatable. Array, 2, 3, 4 features. Scrollable, updatable, disconnected. In the first example only, I shown you all these things. Next, searching and sorting. Using a data view, I shown you how to perform searching operations and sorting operations to you. And last one, establishing relationships between the tables. 2 examples I shown you, establishing relations between the tables to you and with the help of a data relation class. Am I clear all of you? So these are the various features of the data. Which one? The data set, and I demonstrated you all features of the data set to you in different examples. Okay. Now finally, now we learned about both the two architectures. Now finally, I will conclude the things by telling you how exactly do we write coding in the real time. Tomorrow, when you start working in the real-time applications, how the coding process is going to be present in the real-time applications, we'll just discuss. So with that, we will finish our ADO.NET. Okay, so fine. How exactly do we write the code in the real time? See, tomorrow, all of you, when you're going to build applications in the real time, actually, till now, what are we doing? We are writing SQL statements in our application. And these SQL statements, what will happen in the runtime? These SQL statements are sent to database. Array, all the SQL statements are right in my application. In the runtime, what will they do? They'll go to database here. After these SQL statements go to database, what happens? Once the SQL statements are going to the database will now parse that statements first. Database will now parse that statements first. What is parse? Parsing in the sense, listen, you write a program in C#. Will it execute without compilation? Come on, faster. No, same way SQL statements also will not execute without compilation. SQL statements also will not execute without compilation. The process of compiling an SQL statement is called as parsing. The process of compiling an SQL statement is called as parsing. So it has to do parsing of the statement. So all the statements, whatever you write, will be first parsed. All the statements will be first parsed. The parsing will happen now. After the parsing is completed, what happens next? Next thing is execution. First step is parsing. And in the process of parsing here, listen all of you, in the process of parsing, it will do various tests there. In the process of parsing, it will do various tests there. Various different tests are going to be done for you. Like what? You have used the select statement here. First, it will check, is the syntax of the query you have used is correct or not? Means you written some select statement or insert or update. It will verify the syntaxes first. After verifying the syntaxes, it will verify whether the tables what were used in the query are existing in the databases or not. They're existing in the database or not. How does it verify? There is one predefined table called as sysObjects. In SQL Server, there is one predefined table called as sysObjects. The sysObjects table will contain the information of all the objects in your database. What tables are there, what procedures are there, what views are there. Whatever is present in the database, every information will be present under one table called sysObjects. It is called as a metadata table. Might be you explained about this in your SQL classes. Metadata tables. There is a metadata table called as sysObjects. The sysObject tables will contain the information of all objects in the database, not all tables, all objects. That can be system tables, user tables, procedures, functions, triggers, whatever you create, everything will be stored in that info, in that now. Okay. So from there to verify that tables are existing in the database or not. Next, what it verifies, whether the user has the permission to access these tables or not. Did you complete this concept already? What's it? Data control language, DCL. DCL. What is it? Grant and revokes. Are you done? Yes or no? Granting permission, revoking permissions and all. So it verifies now. What it verifies is whether this user is the owner of the table or not. If not a owner, does he have a permission to select or not? It will do the checking. Afterwards, it will verify the columns used in the query are corresponding to the correct tables or not. And this verification, it uses another table called sys columns. Sys columns. What it contains, the table contains the information of all the columns that are present in various tables. Tomorrow, you know a column name, but you don't know in which table. You have 100 tables here. You know a column name, but you don't know in which table this column is present. You can query on the sys columns and you can find out. You can query on the sys columns and you can find out. Say select star from sys columns, it will tell you the column names there. And in that there's a column called name. Name is equals to your column name. It will get you all the tables where that column is present. Like this, you can just find out the various things by using these metadata tables. We call them as metadata tables. Okay, so a lot of tables are there. We can just get a lot of information from those particular tables. Am I clear, guys? Yes or not? So like this, it will do a lot of checkings now. Like this, it is going to do a lot of checkings now. It will perform lot of checks now. All these checks are going to be performed for you by all these checks are performed for you internally. All these checkings are performed for you internally. After doing all these checks and all this process, what I explained to you is called as parsing. Just what we call compiling, syntax checks, all these things will happen now. That is the same thing, what we call parsing. After the parsing is completed, statements will execute. So what is the problem now, Suppose if I install my application tomorrow on 100 computers now, all the 100 computers are going to run the application at the same time. 100 connections are open and these statements are sent to the database now, and database is going to parse you the statement for 100 times. Did you understand me? If I run the application 10 times it will do parsing. If the application is installed on 100 machines now and all the 100 are running the application, it will do parsing every time. Every time the parsing will be done. But just to think wise, what's it? Once the application development is completed and hosted, are these statements going to change again and again? Tell me faster. Once the application development is completed and hosted, will the statements change? Yeah, they won't change now. When the statements are not going to change, what is the need of parsing the statements again and again? That's going to unnecessary waste of time now. Yes or not? What will happen? Heavy burden on the server. Because of that, database server performance will come down. Once the server performance comes down, ultimately the effect will be on the application performance. Server performance comes down, means the effect will be on what? Application performance. That is the drawback. So till now, this is the problem with the code what we are writing. But our intention is to learn about various classes, how to work with the classes and all. That's why I shown you like this. But tomorrow, this architecture is not going to be valid. Then how should I do, sir? How you should do is, the first important rule, remember, is never write SQL statements directly in the application. Rule number 1, never write SQL statements directly in the application, because if you write them whenever you run the application, these statements will go to database, parsed and executed. And this process will not happen one time. This process happens every time you run the application. Okay. Second thing, what you do. write all the SQL statements in the database itself under an object called stored procedure. Under an object called as stored procedure. You learn stored procedures now? Tell me why to write in a stored procedure. What did you learn about a stored procedure in SQL classes? It is a did not get you. To perform DML commands, you can directly write now. Why should I write a procedure here? What is advantage? Tell that. Afterwards, it executes. Means, understand here, your teacher did not tell you this one. A stored procedure is a pre-compiled block of code which is ready for execution. Read your notes. That the first point your teacher will tell you. What is it? A stored procedure is a pre-compiled block of code which is ready for execution. The moment you create the procedure, all the statements are parsed off. So now, what I can do, all my code is in the procedure now. From my application, I can call the procedures. No need compilation, no need parsing, only execution required. Only execution required. No need parsing of the code. Have a look, all of you. I'll show you a picture. The first architecture, you're writing SQL statements till now. What will happen? Passed and executed. Second architecture, your stored procedure, your select statements are in the stored procedure now. What are you doing in the application? You're calling the procedure. What is happening? Only execution is going to be happen. Only execution takes place. No parsing required here. Is my point clear? Okay. So listen, stored procedures. Whenever we want to interact with a database, whenever we want to interact with a database from an application, we use SQL statements. What we use? SQL statements. SQL statements are what we use. Okay. When we use SQL statements, within the application, we have a problem. What is the problem? That is, when the application runs, SQL statements will be sent to database for execution, and there those SQL statements will be parsed. What will happen? Parsed. And those SQL statements will be parsed. The process of parsing is nothing but compilation. And then they are executed. The process of parsing takes each and every time every time we run the application. And because of this, performance of our application decreases. Every time we run the application, the parsing will take place here. And because of this, performance of our application decreases. To overcome the above problem, write SQL statements directly under database only within an object. Where to write? Within an object known as stored procedure, and then call them from our application, for execution. Call them from our application for execution. You need to call them from our application for execution. Okay. Listen, because a stored procedure is a pre-compiled block of code. What is that? Pre-compiled block of code that is ready for execution will directly execute the statements without parsing them each time. Will directly execute the SQL statements without parsing them every time. No need of parsing them every time now. They will directly be executed. And the picture will give you the complete information in a simple way. Then reading all the paragraph of data, this picture will tell you in simple words the difference between the two. Okay, now what next? We need to now learn how to create a stored procedure. We need to learn how to create a stored procedure. All of you learned how to create a stored procedure now. I am not going to give you any explanation of the parallel creations and all. And this is the syntax to create a procedure. How do you create? Create procedure, name of the procedure, parameter list as begin statements. Okay. And now remember, stored procedures stored procedure is similar to a method in our language. Remember a point, all of you. A stored procedure exactly similar to a method in our language. What is a method here? A method is a named block of code, right? Whenever you call that, it executes. A stored procedure is also a named block of code. Whenever you call it executes. Both are same only. Procedure is under database. Method is language. That's all. Is that clear? Okay. So for example, you're writing a method like this, public void test. Public void test. The same thing if you want to write as a procedure, how do you write? Create procedure test. And all of you understand, this is a method in C#. This is going to be a method in C#. And this is going to be a store procedure in SQL Server. Okay, now next important point. If required, we can define, parameters. What we can define? Parameters to a store procedure, but it is only optional. Array, we can define parameters to a store procedure. You learned in your SQL classes, but defining parameters is not mandatory, optional. Okay. If we want to pass parameters to an SQL Server store procedure, if you want to pass a parameter to an SQL Server store procedure, we need to the character at the rate before parameter name. You learned in SQL classes now? Yes or not? Okay, if we wanted to pass parameters to an SQL Server store procedure, we need to prefix the character, which character? At the rate before parameter. Before parameter, that's mandatory. How do you do? Is how you write in C#. Is how you write in SQL at the accent. First, basically, data type comes here, data comes in the last. Okay. What next? Remember, guys, in C# you learned parameters are input and output. C# has three options: input, output, in-out. But we don't have in-out here. What we have is only input, output. Okay. See, a stored procedure cannot return values. Yes or not? A stored procedure cannot return values. So we use output parameters to send any results out of the procedure. And to do that, we should prefix those parameters with out or output keywords. So what I'm trying to tell is, see, methods are two types: value returning, non-value returning, correct? Yes or not? Value returning methods and non-value returning methods. You know both. But when you talk about stored procedures have a problem, guys. What is the problem? The problem with stored procedure is stored procedures cannot return values. Stored procedures cannot return values. But if I want to send any results out of a procedure, it's not going to return a value. If I want to send a result, I need to use what? Output parameters. So we use output parameters to send any results out of the procedure. And to do that, we should prefix those parameters with out or either with out or output keywords. Okay. So don't forget this here. Procedure cannot return values. That's the important point. Procedures cannot return values. So if at all you want to send any results, what we should use? Output parameters to send any results out of the procedure. And to do that, we need to prefix those parameters. We need to prefix those parameters either with out or output keywords. Either out keyword can be used there or output keyword also can be used there. Array, in C# we use out or ref keywords. Array, in not ref case, in C# out only. Ref is in out. Ref is in out. But you want out. If you want out, what we use? Out keyword. Just watch it. This is how you write a method in C#, right? Yes or not? This is how you write a method with output parameter. The same thing if you want to write in SQL. How do you write it now? This is how you write. Either out or output. And C# here, if I use ref also, no problem. Ref supports you out of. Okay, but ref is in out. Without in, I can use only out also. No props. Here we use ref or out, and here we use out or output. Are you guys clear? Yes or not? So this is all about how you write procedures. Basically, the syntax of writing the procedures. This is the syntax of writing the procedures. We can write a procedure in our application. Now let's do one thing. Let's create a stored procedure now. Let us create a procedure and let us see how to call these particular procedures from our application. Let's create a procedure and let us see how to call the procedures from our applications now. Okay now? See all of you. In your SQL classes, you learned how to create a stored procedure now. How did you create a stored procedure? You open the Management Studio. In the Management Studio, we just go to new query. Array, we just use the new query. And after using the new query, what you'll do? It opens a window and there you start writing your procedure. Correct? Yes or not? It opens a new query window and there you start writing a code for creating a procedure. You know that process. I don't require to give you any explanation for you. You already know that process and I don't require to give you any explanation for you. You are taught in the SQL Server classes. But see here, when you talk about Visual Studio, guys, the Visual Studio, basically the Visual Studio is going to be an integrated IDE where it allows you to do everything in the studio only. Everything in the studio means without again opening, means tomorrow if I want to write a procedure, I need to go to SQL Server, write a procedure there, come to my Visual Studio, write code to call the procedure. Again another procedure, go to Management Studio, write the procedure, come back to Visual Studio, call the procedure. So studios I need to work. So without working with the two separate studios like this, what you can do is you can create procedures also from your Visual Studio. You can create procedures also from your Visual Studio. From your Visual Studio also procedures can be created. Did you understand my point or not? From the Visual Studio also, you can just create the procedure. How, sir, how is it possible? Nothing here. If you want to do that, you need to configure your database. You need to configure your database under under a window called as Server Explorer. In the studio, you have a window called as Server Explorer. You need to configure your database over there. We need to configure this. Once you database your server there, SQL server, Oracle, anything can be configured here. It's not like I need to configure only SQL server. I can configure Oracle also. I can configure whatever database I want. Once I configure, you can do all your actions directly in the Server Explorer only without again and again going to the studio. Okay, what's the process, all of you? Look, go to View menu, and here you will be finding an option called Server Explorer. Server Explorer. In the Server Explorer, you'll be finding a window called Data Connections, and under that it will show you if there are any connections already configured. I already configured with one database here. What is the database? This is a database what I configured in my another batch. Yours is not this database now. What is your database? CSDB, right? Right click. Add connection. Choose the database you want. What is the database you want? Microsoft SQL Server. Choose the database you want. It is Microsoft SQL Server, and the brackets it will show you SQL Client. SQL Client is what it shows you. Okay, now? And below that, enter the server name. Below that, enter the server name. What is the server name? My server name is server. Next, which authentication you want? I want SQL authentication. Username, SA. Password, my password is 123. Select, save my password. And once if all the details are correct, it will load you the databases in this list. Choose your database. What is it? Click on test. Click on OK. That's it. The database will be configured for you. Okay, now? So under that, you're just entering these details here. What are the details you're entering? Server name. Authentication. Windows or SQL. I don't know what is your authentication. Choose. If it is SQL, provide username and password. Next, enter your database name. The next thing is you're going to enter your database name. These are the things what you just required to specify. Server name. Next, authentication. And last one is database. And once all these details are filled, automatically your database is configured for you over there. Okay, now? Fine. What next? The next thing is, once you've done all these things, let me close all these forms here. Open the Server Explorer, go to your database, and here you'll be finding, see, tables are shown here. Then all the tables you have. Store procedures. Nothing shown because we did not create any procedures till now. Till now, we did not create any procedure, guys. Right? So let's create a procedure. How to create a procedure? Right click, add new store procedure. This opens your window and you can start writing your procedures. You can start writing all your procedures you just want here. Are you clearer? I want to write a procedure to fetch the data from our employee table. I want to write a procedure to fetch the data from our employee table. Are you getting me? So let me write create procedure. When you're naming the procedures, guys, always be careful. Always follow the convention. What? First, your table name. Which table are you working with? The table I'm working is employee table. Underscore. What operation you wanted to perform? So that tomorrow, when you write multiple procedures associated with the table, you'll find all the many sequential order. When you list the procedures there, all will be shown in alphabetical order. You give different names. You cannot understand what procedures are associated with what tables. So better always follow the table name first, and afterwards the action you wanted to perform. What next? The next thing you give is the parameters you want. Whatever parameters you want, give those particular parameters here. Whatever parameters you want, give those parameters. If you don't want any parameters, ignore. Ignore the parameters for the now. Okay, now? Yes. Now, I wanted to write a statement now, a select statement. Begin and end. Are these mandatory or optional? Louder. Begin and end are mandatory or optional? They're optional. They're not mandatory. They're optional. Watch. Select employee number, employee name, job, salary. I'm also loading the photograph. We'll work with the photo also now. Status from employee. From employee. If you want to write the condition, order by. When you write single line of code, even if you don't write begin and end, also no problem. When you have multiple blocks of code, make a habit of using begin and end. But begin and end is not optional. Sorry, not mandatory. Okay, when you have multiple lines, always make a habit of using begin and end. Single line only directly write off, no issues. So just when after writing this, right click on the document window, you'll find an option called execute. Click on the execute button, the procedure is created. And once the procedure is created, if you come to the Server Explorer, all of you must see the procedure now. How? Refresh. Are you guys clearer? Now I'm just to define the procedure. My procedure is ready now. My procedure is ready. Okay. What next? I completed my first step of defining a store procedure. I completed my first step of defining a store procedure. And the next thing what you're just going to do is, I wanted to create a procedure. I wanted to create a procedure. Okay. Now, yeah, this is the procedure what we created now. Create procedure employee underscore select. And then I'm writing my query, whatever I want. Is that clear all of you? This is the procedure what you are writing now. The procedure is ready. What next? After writing the code, what you will do? Right click. Now right click on the document window. Now right click on the document window. Document window means this is document window. This is called document window. Right click on the document window and select the option. What option? And select execute. And select execute, which will create the stored procedure. Stored procedure in which will create the store procedure in database server, where it creates your database server, and we can view that under Server Explorer within what? Stored procedures node. Within stored procedures node. You'll find that in the Server Explorer, guys, in the stored procedure node. So you can go there and you can verify that your procedure is going to present. Immediately, you may not find it. Simply refresh. That's all. Refresh. And we can view that under Server Explorer within stored procedure node. Procedure is ready, guys. What is the next step now? Calling the procedure. How to call the procedure. Okay. So tomorrow, let's learn how to call these particular procedures. So in this process, I will also explain you working with images, images and all these things. How do you deal with it? I'll show you all the things. Okay. Let's stop there. We'll meet tomorrow.
Recording stopped.